Here are 7 reasons why Dwight Howard's play shouldn't really come as a surprise. Before I get into the video, if you enjoy these types of videos, be sure to smash that like button. Let's see if we can reach 1,000 likes for the next video. If you're new around here as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button for NBA content every single week. With that said, let's get on to the video. Firstly, we need to break down the obvious before we get into the 7 reasons. There's a few Dwight Howard myths that need to be debunked before we get into the 7 reasons. So if you want to click to the 7 reasons, I'll put a timestamp in the description, but I think you should firstly listen to a few things that need to be debunked. Number 1, Dwight Howard being a bad teammate. The NBA every year released their winners for the teammate of the year for each team. When Dwight played for Atlanta, he won the Atlanta Hawks teammate of the year. So is Dwight Howard really that bad of a teammate? Or was it negative press by everybody in LA loving Kobe Bryant and hating on Dwight Howard? Has he ever been a really bad teammate in Orlando? I mean, obviously there was the Stephen Van Gundy incident, but if players and head coaches clash, then that means everybody should hate on LeBron, everybody should hate on Kobe. It happens. NBA players sometimes clash with their head coaches. But in Orlando, he never really clashed with players. Obviously in LA, he managed to clash with Kobe, and in Houston, yeah, towards the end, he clashed with James Harden. So I don't think that Dwight Howard is really that bad of a teammate, the way that people assume he was. They all just assume he was a cancer in the locker room, but was he really, or was that just the narrative that people chose to run with?
The one thing that I really hated was just hearing people say I was a cancer in the locker room, or I'm not good to have around teammates. That really got me. You know, one year I got teammate of the year. And then the same summer, like, he's a bad teammate.
But what is the biggest factor to Dwight Howard's success this season? And the biggest obvious factor is that Dwight Howard was never even that bad. We have to remember that work ethic drives everybody. Dwight may have lost his confidence, Dwight may have lost his work ethic, Dwight may have been a little bit injured, but he was never a bad player. Dwight's play has never really diminished as much as people like to assume. Of course, just like most NBA players, his stats have decreased over time, but he was still one of the top centers in the league, even going back a few seasons ago in the 2017-18 season. That wasn't too long ago. He ended up playing in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington. Those 3 teams don't have the biggest viewership. In fact, most casual NBA fans, unless they go for those teams, won't really tune into a Charlotte Hornets game, an Atlanta Hawks game, or a Washington Wizards game. So my point is, many people didn't really watch Dwight Howard. They just saw what was written about him, they saw a lot of people hate on him, but they never really and truly watched his style of play. Yes, of course, he was a different player to Orlando Magic Dwight, but he was never a bad player the way that people like to assume he was. In Washington, he was actually injured. He only played 9 games, but when he did play, he had 13 points, 9 rebounds, and that was coming back from injury in only 25 minutes. The year before in Charlotte, which nobody really watched the Charlotte Hornets, he averaged 16.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks. In Atlanta, he averaged 13.5 points, almost 13 rebounds, 1 block, but he only had 8 field goal attempts per game. Keep in mind, in Charlotte and in Atlanta, he played 80 games and 74 games. The year before in Houston, and his last and final year in Houston, he averaged 13.7 points, 12 rebounds, 1 steal, 1.5 blocks in only 8 field goal attempts per game, playing 71 games for the season as well. So the myth that Dwight Howard is an injury-prone player is really something that is that of a myth. Dwight Howard, when looking at his entire career, has never really been injured. And the one time he was actually severely injured before last season in Washington was his time in LA, where he still managed to play 76 games for the season. He pushed through all injuries that he had, playing through a torn labrum. And if you know anything about playing through a torn labrum, it can be very dangerous, number 1. Number 2, his back, where he got ligaments pulled out of his back, and Metta World Peace talks about that in an interview. And thirdly, he played through an injury in which you're meant to be out the entire season, but he still played through it. And whilst people think he played horrible in LA, he still averaged 17 points, 12.5 rebounds, 2.5 blocks per game, shooting 57% from the field and with only 10.7 field goal attempts. So firstly, we've debunked the myth that Dwight Howard has been injury prone. Secondly, we should debunk the myth that Dwight Howard has really been a bad player and a poor player in this league. Yes, he was injured last season, but he's never been a bad player. Dwight Howard has never really been a true scorer in this league. He's never averaged over 22 points per game. Players like Joel Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns, they are true scorers. They are true big men who like to score the ball, and their teams actually run post-up plays for them. When Dwight Howard was the center of the offense, he never really got plays run for him, and when he did, there were occasional post-up plays. But when you look at field goal attempts per game, he's never been that offensive threat. What obviously he could do though was change the game by defense, and that is something that maybe has been lacking in the last few seasons. But that's only simply due to the fact that he lost some of his athleticism and, in my opinion, confidence too. And I think that was a major factor in Dwight's demise. But I don't think it's a surprise that he's playing well, and two, he's always had the talent. So, at number 7, Dwight Howard's focus is there. He's playing hard on both offense and defense, and you can tell that he's really motivated to achieve big things. Let's be honest, he's on a $2.5 million contract. He doesn't play for money. He doesn't play for anything other than to win. He knows what LeBron James brings. He knows what Anthony Davis brings. He knows his role on his team, which is something that I don't think he's actually had in the last few seasons. He knows what his true role is, and he knows how to play his role well. He doesn't have to handle the offensive workload. He doesn't even have to handle the defensive workload. He just has to go out there and show hustle, show emotion, be a presence on the offensive and defensive side of the court, and just grab rebounds. That's his main focus. At number 6, the Lakers are actually starting to run some post-up situations for Dwight Howard. Dwight has never really been an offensive threat, and teams have never really ran offensive plays for him. But with the Lakers and LeBron James, when Anthony Davis is off the court, they do seem to feed Dwight Howard, mostly in the pick and roll situation, obviously, because that's what he's best at. But surprisingly, they are looking to feed him at times in post-up situations, and you can tell just through that he has been working out and working on his post-up moves. At number 5, I think that having LeBron James plus another point guard, whether it's Alex Caruso, Quinn Cook, even Avery Bradley, and of course when Rondo gets back, having two facilitators there to feed Dwight Howard the ball is something that I don't think he's really had in a long time. Kemba Walker is not really a facilitator. He's more of an offensive threat at the point guard position. In Houston, he was playing alongside James Harden, who definitely is not. Even though he gets a lot of assists, he's very ISO heavy, and of course he's definitely very ball dominant. And even Dwight Howard said, and I quote, "I haven't had a system where I can be who I am since I was in Orlando. The fact that I played with Kobe Bryant and James Harden and they were ball dominant affected me." Now, of course, Dwight Howard isn't going to be the main center of attention, but when you do play with a guy like LeBron James, who was a pass first player, he obviously fits better with LeBron, and I think we've seen that so far. He draws the defender when he drives in, leaving Dwight with open space. Whether it's with a lob or whether it's a missed shot off the glass, to stop LeBron, you have to bring a second defender, which is why Dwight ends up with a lot of open looks under the basket. They collapse more on LeBron than they ever did with Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and Kemba Walker. Obviously, LeBron James, as we all know, is one of the greatest players of all time, and when he drives in, normally you have to bring help to stop him from finishing around the rim, meaning that under the basket, he can always make the right play, and that's what we've seen so far. At number 4, you can tell that Dwight Howard is gaining some of his athleticism back. He's starting to loosen up, he's starting to get in NBA ready shape, and his back seems to be a lot better. He took a whole year off last season, meaning that he's fresh and ready to go, and you can see now that he seems fresh, he seems more athletic than last season, and you can tell he has a little bit more bounce. At number 3, even though a lot of Dwight's points are off putback dunks or alley-oop plays in the pick and roll, you can see that Dwight's clearly developed more moves than he originally had when he first arrived in LA. He works out every day, and because he's playing less minutes during the game, he now stays after the game to work on his game even more, which I think has actually helped him a lot. And this has become an after-game ritual for Dwight Howard, something that he never did previously, proving that he really wants to be there and show why he can still play in the league. At number 2, his defensive game has also changed. When Dwight Howard first arrived in the league, he was an athletic monster. He went after every block shot. But now Dwight Howard's style of defense is a lot different, and I'll let Gilbert Arenas explain it.
JaVale's never going to try to stop me because he's going to try to meet me at the rim. So he's going to give me the lane, which most jumpers do. Him, DeAndre Jordan,
Dwight.
Dwight will flick at it. He's gonna go down and try to flick.
Which is really different from the past version of Dwight Howard, who would time his shot and block it out the stands. This version of Dwight Howard tends to go a little bit lower. He obviously still has the shot blocking ability, but he uses the flick to his advantage, and we definitely saw it last game against the Spurs. He's not exactly timing his shot blocking, instead he's playing better defense, which is something that I think is going a little bit unnoticed. And at number one, and I think the most important part about it, is that his focus is there. He's playing hard, and you can see the passion and excitement. He high-fives all his teammates, he brings the crowd into it, he gets the crowd up and excited, and you can tell that even just this little bit of confidence is doing him wonders. I think the biggest thing that Dwight Howard hasn't had since he originally left the Lakers was the fact that he lost his confidence. He lost the Dwight Howard swagger. He lost what made him a superstar in the league. Yes, now he is 34 years old. He won't be the 27-year-old Dwight Howard that was first in LA. But what he does have now is a little bit more confidence. Just like Kobe said, Dwight Howard is more ready for this time around. And I 100% agree with him. I think we've seen that, and I think Dwight even knows that himself. Having a specific role that he can actually play to is something that he hasn't really had in a very long time. He's starting to get his athleticism back. He's starting to get his confidence back, which is why I don't think that his play overall should be a surprise. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. Let's see if we can reach 1,000 likes for the next video. Subscribe if you're new for more NBA content.